What are the biggest position battles heading into training camp for the Minnesota Vikings? What's up, guys, and welcome to the Minnesota Vikings Syndicate, a show for the fans by a fan. Now, before we get started, hit that subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time a video is released. So what are the biggest position battles for the Minnesota Vikings heading into training camp? Well, Jordy McElroy of the Vikings Wire highlighted 3 of the biggest position battles that we can look forward to happening in training camp. Those being the right guard position, the cornerback position, and the backup quarterback position. So let's start right off the bat with the right guard spot. Jordy McElroy highlights that, well, it might not potentially be Wyatt Davis's job. Here's what he had to say. He said, look, the team signed veterans Chris Reed and Jesse Davis in the offseason for right guard depth after Oli Ado struggled last season. They also went out and spent a second-round draft pick on rookie Ed Ingram as a high-ceiling option to hopefully fortify the position. Of course, that doesn't mean he'll take over the reins right out of the gates, as the Vikings could look at one of their veteran players to take over that role early on. It'll be interesting to see how far along he is in comparison to Reed and Davis when the pads come on. There's still a long-shot hope that Wyatt Davis can somehow get into the mix as well, but it's beginning to look like the ship has sailed on the second-year offensive lineman who was selected number 86 overall in the 2021 NFL Draft by former Vikings general manager Rick Spielman. So definitely the right guard position can use some work. It's actually the worst position of our offensive line at this point in time. We have to figure out a way to, well, make it better, right? I think what we could obviously do, go sign J.C. Tretter, move Garrett Bradbury to maybe potentially the right guard position or slide him over to a different position, and then freeing up that person, whoever he takes his job, move him to right guard and stuff like that. Because in my opinion, the offensive line is the easiest position to play multiple positions, if you kind of get what I'm trying to say here, kind of get my drift, right? If you're a center, you should have the same ability to play right guard, right tackle, left tackle, right guard. You understand that. Yes, there's some technique things that need to be fixed, but I think it's the most easy position to kind of move around and do different or play different roles. So the right guard position is definitely one position battle that we got to keep our eye on, but there's nobody set in stone at this point in time. The other position battle, the cornerback position. Obviously, Patrick Peterson is going to lock up that starting role, just like Jordy McElroy of Vikings Wire had to say. This is what he had to say about the cornerback position. He says, with rookie Lewis Cine taking a significant number of snaps with the first team unit in the spring practices, there's been this growing assumption that the same will be the case when rookie cornerback Andrew Booth Jr. returns to the practice field at 100%. But Cam Dantzler might have something to say about that. Interesting. The veteran corner has continued to improve and mature to the point where he could be one of the long-term fixtures for the Vikings in the defensive backfield. Yes, Booth is a smart player with a lot of talent, but it doesn't mean he's going to land a starting job right off the bat. He goes on to say he was limited throughout the spring practices because he was been on the mend from a hernia sports surgery he had back in March. The plan has always been for him to get ready to go by training camp, but he'll clearly have some catching up to do, along with competing with a more experienced player in Dantzler. Patrick Peterson is already locked in on the other cornerback spot, and Chandon Sullivan, who I believe we brought over from the Green Bay Packers, is expected to lead the slot corner role. So, the Booth and Dantzler battle is definitely the one to keep an eye on in future practices. Now, I agree completely on this, because I am not sold on the fact that Cam Dantzler is improving or is a future cornerstone of our defense. I don't trust him and until he proves me otherwise. For some reason, he just lets up too many big plays. Yes, he has, spurts of where he plays really good football, but more times than not, he plays pretty rough football. Like it's a struggle to watch. It makes me mad, makes me scream at the TV, and I'm pretty sure it does for you guys as well. Because Cam Dantzler, he's right on the verge where he can be so good, so good, but he just can't get over that hump of letting up those big plays. Now Trevon Diggs, the Dallas Cowboys, look, he has trouble with that too, or he has been having trouble with that, letting up massive plays, but he hides that with the interceptions that he gets. So Cam Dantzler just has to start being more of a ball hawk, and then we can kind of forget about that. But this position battle is going to be one to definitely keep an eye on. I would like to see Andrew Booth Jr. in there, but obviously I think you're going to have to roll with that veteran experience, especially with a new head coach, a new defensive coordinator, and stuff like that, just because it'll be a little bit easier for that veteran to catch on, and plus Booth Jr. can sneak his way in there when need be. So last but not least, what is the third biggest position battle heading into training camp? Well, that, folks, is the backup quarterback position. Who is going to be the backup? Is it Sean Mannion, like he has been the past couple years? Or is it going to be Kellen Mond, who I would like to see quite a bit from, especially during this year's preseason? So Jordy McElroy has this to say about the quarterback position battle. Kellen Mond has, been one of the more intriguing players often highlighted through the early practices. There has been talk of him playing with more confidence within O'Connell's offense. Back in May, Vikings offensive coordinator Wes Phillips referred to him as a very sharp and having his eyes in the right place on the field. He started off the spring practices strong, and then he ended things at minicamp by, throwing an interception to Perry Nickerson. Goes on to say that the Vikings already know what they have in Sean Mannion as a backup quarterback. His ceiling on the football field has already been established. However, the same isn't necessarily the case for Mond, who has some intangibles that make him a worthy project for Kevin O'Connell and company. But will he be good enough when the pads come on to promote from a third option to Kirk Cousins' direct backup quarterback? That will be easily one of the more fascinating questions heading into late July. Now, I would love to see more of Kellen Mond. Look, I think Jordy he hit it right on the nose where we've seen Sean Mannion hit his ceiling. He's not going to get any better, but he's also not going to get any worse. So he's a safe option as a backup quarterback. Now, I know guys are probably wondering, why are we talking about backup quarterbacks? Well, it's crucial because let's say Kirk Cousins gets injured. We don't hope that, okay? We never hope that. That is just an awful thing to think about. But if that happens, you need to have a guy who's ready to step up and be a leader and put your team in the right position to win ball games. And I think Kellen Mond might just be that option. I want to see his motor, especially in this new offense, this pass-first offense with Kevin O'Connell. I think he can do a lot of great things. He's a mobile quarterback, and I think the NFL is slowly moving to a mobile quarterback league. But I do believe it's still that pocket passer league that we've been seeing the past, half century at least, maybe even more, maybe a whole century at this point, basically. Because the NFL's been around for 100 years. Pocket passers have always been the key to success, except for way back in the day when you had to run the ball. But that's changed. And I think now it's slowly changing into a mobile quarterback league. It's going to take some time until it is fully a mobile quarterback league. So let's get Kellen Mond that backup position. If not, I'm okay with Sean Mannion because Kirk Cousins never really seems to get injured. And let's hope that pans out. But those are the three biggest position battles heading into training camp: the right guard position, the cornerback position, and the quarterback position. So with that being said, for more NFL news, head over to Get Your Fix with the Wicks at 6 p.m. Central Time. We'll dive into the entire NFL. Have a great rest of your day, folks. And last but not least, Skol, baby.